from the MCPLive.tv studios, located in downtown Conroe, it's the Conroe Art League, live.
Hello and welcome to Cal Live, the show that introduces you to the many talented artists of the Conroe Art League and to the art that they create. My name is Ken Roy. I'm the president of the Art League and your host today. And our guest today is the wonderful artist, Cynthia Reid. Cynthia is an artist, an educator, a judge, and I think I learned a new word, yogini, and animal lover, nature enthusiast. Did I miss anything?
All of that.
All of that. And I must have missed something, so I know you're from New York. Could you give us some background, Cynthia, maybe some of your art background, if you did that as a child or at another age, and the trip from New York to Texas, and
sure.
A little bit about who you are.
Okay, well, I was born in New York, and I did do art as a child. My parents encouraged that, and I won the award in 6th grade with my friend, who we were co-winners. I did take art in high school, but I guess I wasn't really inspired. When I went to college, I went to Syracuse University first, and I was an English major. I think I thought, well, I like to read, so maybe I'll be an English major. I was, I didn't really have a life goal at that time. Eventually, my roommate and I dropped out of school, and with her high school friend, we were on our way to California.
Is that right?
That's right. We got as far as Colorado. We spent the first night in Colorado Springs because they had a high school friend who was going to Colorado College. And so we crashed on her floor. And we just fell in love with Colorado and decided, let's stay here. So we rented a little house in Manitou Springs, and it was just a really exciting, fun time. I had promised my mother when we left that I'd be back in school within the year. So I enrolled at University of Colorado. They had an extension campus in Colorado Springs. And that's when I became an art major. I had taken a couple of classes at Syracuse that were for non-art majors and got kind of excited about it. So in Colorado, I took all the basic classes. While I was in Colorado, I met my ex-husband, who was a Texan. And eventually, we came down here for me to finish school at Sam Houston. At some point, he said to me...
You never got to California?
I never
got to California?
I've been on that trip. But not on that trip. No, it was a long detour. At some point, he said to me, so what are you going to do, be an artist? With such scorn in his voice that I said, no, I'm not going to be an artist. I'm going to be an art teacher. And I just kind of blurted that out, and that sort of set my path.
Once you've committed to it, now you got to go that way.
So I did graduate as an art major with a degree in teaching.
From Sam Houston.
From Sam Houston. And I got a job at Conroe High School, and I taught there for 11 years. And then I went to Oak Ridge High School and taught there for 17 years. And I retired from high school teaching in 2004, and I taught at Lone Star. Oh. And then I eventually taught at Sam Houston.
You've done a lot of, so a lot of different places that you've taught in the Conroe. Is Oak Ridge Conroe ISD?
It is,
know
yes.
That. So a long time in the Conroe ISD. And they've got a terrific program for high school. I know that. I don't know about the other grades, but we get a lot of support, and you know this because you judged the show, our 12 by 12, that we fund our student show from that, and so
that's a great
lot of support on that. So in college at, let's say, Sam Houston, were there any particular influences, artists, the isms that you went toward naturally, or was everything on the plate? Was it a cafeteria style?
Let's try everything. Was. I got a master's of education in 1977, which was the same year that I had my daughter. And then I eventually started working on an MFA, and I took a class in Art Nouveau, and I loved Art Nouveau, or especially at that time I loved Art Nouveau,
right.
and that kind of influenced my painting. But I love art history and been influenced by lots of isms. And growing up in New York, I have gone to lots of museums.
Sure.
And
So the MFA was in history. It wasn't.
Actually, it was in painting.
It was in painting.
And it was in watercolor, basically. As an art teacher, you have to know how to do so many things.
Right,
You have
right.
to teach them how to draw and paint, but you also have to help them with sculpture projects and ceramics and fire the kiln and all that kind of stuff. So for my own art, I really wanted to focus. I decided to focus just on one thing, one medium.
Meaning watercolor?
Yes.
And what attracted you to that?
And I was doing oil painting as well. I was doing both. And I didn't have a studio. I was painting on the kitchen table. So that was another reason to just pick one medium, because you can't spread all that out and paint and then put all that away and get the watercolor stuff out. So I was attracted to water. I just like the way it looks.
Sure.
But it also, was less mess to paint on the kitchen table. It dried fast. At the time, I thought that I was a very impatient person, and that I could get this done quicker. I'm not. I do some paintings now that take a long time, so I'm not sure that's really a factor. But it was really mostly how it looks.
So you hear this term all the time about watercolor. It's I say you hear it all the time now. I can't remember the term, but it's unforgiving. I think is the term I'm looking for. That never frightened you at all. That
I guess it didn't frighten me.
Yeah.
There is a certain truth to that, although probably less than a lot of people think.
Yeah. And you say, well, you're in a hurry, but don't you have to wait for that?
Yes. And when I'm painting, I usually have several going at once, so I can do this, put that over there, and then get another one, and because we also have hair dryers. So
that's true.
Speed that up.
When you do you have multiple pieces going at once. Are they typically the same subject, the same style? Do you have to stay in the moment for that one you started with? Or you?
Typically they are.
Often I don't do it that way, but I know a lot of people will say they do, and that's what I can't get out of my head. But how can you change? Because you get in the moment, right? And then how do you change over?
And plus, I work in series. If I'm painting seascapes, then I'm painting seascapes for months and months probably.
But you're not. Are you even now mostly watercolor or exclusively watercolor?
I'm mostly watercolor.
Okay.
But I did last year discover paper weaving, which something popped up.
Yes.
On my computer. I don't remember if it was like a Facebook thing or Instagram, or it might even have been an email, but I was getting notices about this paper weaving class that was taught by a lady in Colorado, Helen Hebert. And I thought, paper weaving? That's like so elementary school. And then I went on her website and I looked at the work and I thought, oh, wow, this is not elementary school work. And so I signed up for her class, which was called Weave Through Winter. And it was 30 days, and you did a weaving every day. And it was, of course, online instruction. And this was in the winter, January, February of 2020, which turned out to be such perfect timing because you do one a day, then you really get into it. And then we had COVID.
Yes.
And I wasn't going anywhere, and I had tons of studio time. And so when the class ended, I just kept on doing these paper weavings. And so...
And Cynthia, is it actually just what it says, weaving strands of paper?
It is.
Okay.
And I can talk in more detail when we see the images.
Yeah, so we do that. Okay. So I'll jump to another subject, and that is judging. I know you've judged maybe a lot of shows. I'm not sure how many, but I know you judged our national show at the Conroe Art League some years back. And you've judged some other things, including our 12 by 12, where the member artist of the Art League, paint on a 12 by 12 canvas, and we auctioned that off. So you came in, and we do a thing called the Select 12. And I remember the day you came in, we had probably 80 plus pieces on
That
the
was
table.
so hard to pick 12.
That's what.
It was real easy to pick about 30.
That's right, because you were going back and forth. I like this, but maybe this. And I wanted to say, but here's
What
mine.
about mine?
Here's mine. Yeah. But no, you did a wonderful job, and that's so important that you pick the pieces that gets the attention, and they are of the quality of Select 12. And but if you remember the national show, tell us a little bit about that, if you can, because that's all online.
Yes, that was all online. I used to work for the Woodlands Waterway Arts Festival, so I was in charge of artists. I was the artist manager. And one of my jobs was looking at their applications as they came in. Artists don't always follow directions, so there was a lot of emailing.
No.
But I am used to looking at it, and then I also would set up the jury, and I'm used to looking at art online. So I was comfortable with that procedure. It was also really difficult because I can't remember exactly how many entries there were, but over 300 for sure. And I think I was told to pick 50.
Right.
Oh my God, that was so hard.
Yes.
And I kind of went through and did a yes, no, maybe, and get all the way through, and I've got like 25 no's and 250 maybes.
Now what do you do? Yeah.
I went through it so many times, and eventually did get it whittled down. But lots and lots of good work was left out.
And the 50 come in, and the 50 are displayed in the gallery, and then there might be a little bit of that one doesn't look
exactly like
person,
I thought it did.
like it was going to be. Have you judged outside of those? Maybe Lone Star
I've judged,
Art Guild?
a lot of high school stuff.
A lot of high school.
When I was, I'd go to a different region and judge their student shows.
And right now you're doing a workshop, or has it just completed? The Artist Way?
It's not completed. We end on July 29th. It was a 13-week class.
Wow.
And it was really, I don't feel like I'm teaching it. I'm more of a facilitator for a book discussion. And the book is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Yes. Which has been out for some
Oh, yeah, it's been out since
years and
92,
years.
I think.
Ooh, okay.
So it's time to revisit it.
Right.
So, yeah, we have a wonderful group of people.
So the book, I've never read the book. My daughter has, and she's told me about it. But I guess so. In the book, there are introductions to, would you call it inspiration?
Yeah, it's
ways
really
to create.
It's kind of aimed toward if you're blocked and how to unblock yourself. And there's really two main things that she suggests, and one is to write morning pages every day. And it's just sort of a free association, 3 pages. And it's kind of just a brain dump. Get all that stuff out. And some people do it at night. It doesn't have to be in the morning.
Right.
And then the other thing is taking yourself on an artist date, which means you go someplace by yourself. That's important because, you're not like talking to your friend.
Yes.
You could go anywhere that's kind of visually interesting. Like you could go to, obviously, a museum or a gallery and look at art, but you could also go to an antique store or a car show or, whatever you really like to look at.
Yeah.
And so while the morning pages, you're getting it out, the artist day, you're bringing stuff in.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So, and it sounds simplistic maybe, but this is the 3rd time I've done this book discussion with a group, and some people really have huge breakthroughs. So that's really exciting.
And when you say breakthrough, a breakthrough in their art, that they're going in a different direction, or
it could even just be in their
personal
life.
Yeah.
I've seen both.
Are there any revelations or insights that Cynthia Reid would want to share that
From the Artist's Way?
Yeah, Artist's Way. Any breakthrough?
Well, I think maybe not so much this time, although this
Anytime,
time
sure.
it's been fun meeting people. That's just another part of it because you're having very intimate discussions, sometimes way too intimate. But so I have gotten to know people really well. But in the past, I think it's been really helpful for me in developing a daily painting practice.
Yes.
You know, I have a studio, and it's we built it from a detached garage on our property, so it's right there. And I go out there every day, and you know, some days I might just play around, and other times I'm working on serious paintings. But I go there every day, and I do something, and so I think the Artist Way really set me up for that.
And that's something. That's what I was looking for. Something that, because that commitment to do something every day must have that cumulative effect over time. And okay, oh, very good. Are you ready to look at the art now?
Sure.
Okay, and we've got 4 pieces to look at today. So if we could see the first piece, and I'll give you my impression. I like that the foreground is right there, like you're in the flowers, and that tunneling of the light is to me is just great. It's amazing just to be able to go through and get into the light. But tell us the name of the piece, and I'm going to guess watercolor, but it may not be, and the inspiration and the process. And
Okay, well, this is called bushy blue stem because that's the native grass that's growing there. I will jump back a little bit and tell you that when I first moved to Texas, I was coming from Colorado. Get to Texas, like, where are the mountains? And I thought, this landscape is very unspectacular.
yes,
And so for the first part of my painting career, I was painting architecture. And I was really still very connected to New York. In fact, when I moved here, the plan was to go back there, but that never happened. So I painted architecture for about 10 years. And I started with pictures that I took in New York, but eventually I did a lot of photography in Galveston and Austin, Houston, and so I was really into architecture. And then I got out of that, and I was kind of looking for something else. I painted a bunch of still lifes, but eventually I did start painting landscape. When my husband and I, this is my second husband, Martin, who's also an artist, he's a painter, we bought some property in Willis. We live on 6 acres. And I started being inspired by the place where I live. And I also took the Master Gardener class. And so I just felt a deeper connection to nature than I had felt before. So most of the paintings I do that are landscapes are just little glimpses of my property. And, I always have my phone with me and take a bunch of pictures. I have taken a lot of pictures like that one where I'm looking right into the sun. It's like a late afternoon and the sun's really low and coming through backlighting those plants.
yes.
So I guess, I'm inspired by what's around me mostly, but I just had to learn to take a little closer look because the vista doesn't include any mountains.
I like that. Yes, yeah. I guess if you get low enough to the ground, then that could be mountains from that perspective, or at least hills here. Okay, are you ready to go to the second piece?
Sure.
Okay. And again, I had that same feeling. Of course, the purple is really nice, and the white, and that whole feeling again of being drawn into it. If you're planning that, it's working. And if it just happened, if it's an accident, it's still working. But tell us about that one, if you would, Cynthia.
Okay, well, I had a one-person show, I think it was in 2016, in Huntsville at the Winhome Fine Arts Center. And it's funny that the word you used, because the title of my show was Drawn to the Sea.
Oh, okay.
And they were all seascapes. This is a later one. This is probably my most recent seascape. And I kind of alternate between painting my own landscape where we live, but I love painting water. So this is actually kind of a small painting. And kind of like the landscapes, I usually don't paint a big scene of the ocean. I'm usually focusing on the water itself, the waves, the texture, the movement. Like close-ups, like that one.
In watercolor, there's the term "save the whites," and of course, there were a lot of whites in there. Did you mask? Did you paint around? Is it simply a lighter purple, and then it became lighter as you put the darks around it?
I use a lot of masking fluid.
A lot of masking.
I do.
Yeah.
Some paintings, not this one. I mean, this one I was just masking out the whitest whites.
Right.
I have done some paintings where, mask out a little part and then do glazes or washes or whatever, let it dry, and then mask out some more parts. I have some paintings that when I got finished, it was, like almost all masking. So, and I know some people, don't like to use masking fluid, but I do. I really like it. I also, do paint around some areas.
Yes, if there's a divide in watercolor, that may be one of them that never use masking fluid.
Yeah.
Of course I use masking fluid because what better way, to me, although I don't use a lot, what better way to save the whites, but
It's just really good if you have really fine white details against, a darker background. It works really well.
Okay. Are we ready for the third?
I like to push the color, that when I go to the beach and I've painted lots of oceans, but I've also done rivers, and we have a pond on our property. I've painted that several times. So I have lots of pictures to refer to, but I always like to push the color a little bit. So, that one's like pink and purple, and the colors that I use are not terribly realistic. So I'm not really interested in making a realistic scene so much as just a close look with what I think are pretty colors.
I'm with you on that because when I do landscapes, I get frustrated. I'm always doing green. Can I do something else other than green? But I did hear a bit of advice one time. If the values are right, you can put any color you want. So I took that as
I believe that.
You believe that and
I
support
think value
that. Teach
is
that.
the most important element.
So now this one, what I say will make sense when we see the next one, but squares, and maybe this is paper weaving, is it?
This is paper weaving.
And that use of the square format and doing something different, which you'll see on the next one, but I'm thinking, well, you're starting off with, and now you're making different sections and bringing it out, and the design, the composition is coming right out of that. So please talk about the paper weaving process in this piece. Okay,
well, the main thing I love about paper weaving is the paper. And I really didn't know, I know all about watercolor paper, but I didn't really know much about any other kinds of paper. And I still just know a teeny bit.
So you're not making your own paper?
No. These papers were on this one, all the papers were purchased. A lot of them are called chiyogami, which is a handmade Japanese paper that has a lot of...
Chiyogami is what you said?
Chiyogami
Okay.
has a lot of little patterns. I love using that paper for paper weaving, partly because it's so attractive, but also it's a thin paper, but it's really strong. So the paper takes a little bit of abuse when you're weaving it. Like in this one, it's a very tight weave, so there's a lot of pulling and pushing on the paper, and the chiyogami really stands up to abuse. I took that paper weaving class in 2020. I took it again in 2021, and I did this one in 21. The instructor, this was done while the class was going on. The instructor would give a list of prompts, like each day there was a different prompt, and you didn't have to follow them, but I did follow them this time, pretty much. And the prompt for this was seasons. So I chose 4 different types of paper to represent the 4 seasons. And I should have sent a picture of the back of the weaving because you can see the construction of it a lot better.
I never thought about that, yes.
Instead of taking one piece of paper, which you'll see on the next one, I actually took 4 strips and connected them on the back and then wove those same papers but strips through that. So
very nice.
In a way, it's complicated. In a way, it's a very simple weaving. I mean, it's just over, under, over, under.
Okay.
And there's no other techniques on that particular weaving. But it's more an example of how much I love the paper.
It sounds fascinating. And when you told me the title of it, it's, I don't know if this is specific to me or is it's common, but I have my own thoughts about it. And you tell me the title, and it kind of flips, and I say, oh, yes, of course. Okay. On to the fourth one?
Sure.
And again, paper weaving, but what a different look, and all the movement coming around on everything. So go ahead, tell us about this one.
Okay, well, one thing that I've really gotten into with the paper weaving is taking old watercolors and using them to weave with. So this is actually, and this piece is 22 by 22, and it was a square watercolor that I did, and this was in, a water series, several rocks, and then this was really based on more of a river. This was actually, I think, from maybe when we were in New Mexico. And my husband and I went, my husband's from New Mexico, and a couple times we went and rented a cabin and stayed there and just went out in the landscape and painted every day. So that might have been started there, but maybe not. Maybe just from some of the pictures.
Okay.
But so I've been repurposing a lot of watercolors. I have a big set of flat files in my studio full of unfinished watercolors that maybe I finished but I never liked.
Right. So you're taking it and you're actually cutting it up into strips. And that's
okay, well, and actually most of the time, sometimes you can weave with total strips, which is how I did the previous one. This one is kind of a warp and weft thing where the watercolor was what you call the warp. And so I didn't totally cut it into strips. It's still attached at the top and the bottom, but it is cut into strips in the middle.
Okay.
And then I took some of that Chiogami paper, and it was printed with a little tiny print, but it was waves, a water look. And so then I wove strips of that into the watercolor. So I've repurposed lots and lots of watercolors.
And if those watching would like to do paper weaving,
they would have
the opportunity. And tell us, Cynthia, all about that. When is it coming up? The cost, and what September, right? You're going to do that.
Okay, so I'm teaching a paper weaving workshop. It's September 18th and 19th, which is a Saturday and a Sunday.
At the Conroe Art League.
At the Conroe Art League. I think it's 10 to 4 both those days. I think the price is, I can't remember.
It's fine.
I didn't study.
Go to the website.
I think it's $195.
If you're interested, go to the website and we'll have all the information.
But it'll be a lot of fun.
That sounds
and we'll
about
be
right.
doing all different kinds of techniques with paper weaving that I didn't get a chance to talk about today. Also, I should mention that I'm going to be teaching a watercolor class at the Conroe Art League starting in September. And that's actually not quite up on the website yet for registration.
Okay.
But it will be very soon because I just submitted the paperwork and the images. That'll be on Thursday afternoons starting September 2nd. It's 1 to 3:30.
Good. Okay.
I think the price is also $195.
Okay.
But that's that's for a 6-week session.
Okay.
Running from September 2nd to I forget the date, but the beginning of October. Okay. And then we'll immediately do a second session running up until the week before Thanksgiving. And so you can sign up for one session. You don't have to have session 1 to sign up for session 2 if that's not going to work with your schedule. So.
That's nice to know. So they're independent. And the paper weaving, coming back to that one, you're going to walk out of that workshop with
lots of paper.
With a lot of paper pieces.
Yes, and the paper. I'm providing a really nice package of paper that I've bought. I bought all kinds of paper and cut. They're all going to be 9 by 12, so everybody gets a paper pack. But you can also weave anything I mentioned that I'm doing the watercolors, but I've also had a lot of fun weaving with photographs. Actually, in a previous life, I was an antique dealer, and I have a whole bunch of old photographs. And so I've been taking some 8x10s and weaving those with the Chiogami or some other kind of colored paper.
Okay.
So people would be encouraged to bring their own. I mean, you can weave old letters or old photographs or anything that you have that doesn't even have to be paper. You can weave with ribbon or
all kinds
anything.
of possibilities.
So we'll talk
here.
a lot about that
All right.
on the first day, and then maybe they'll bring their own stuff on the second day.
Okay. And on August the 7th, that's a Saturday, we'll have a general meeting at the Art League, and that'll begin at 4. And at maybe about 5 o'clock, Cynthia is going to begin the demo, and she will do a demo, and it will be about paper weaving. So come get a taste of it. If this hasn't interested you, come and take a look, and look at the Art League website for more information. So Cynthia, where can people find your art? Do you have a website? Do you have Facebook? Do you have Instagram?
I have it all.
Give them all the information so they can go look at it.
Okay, well, my website is Cynreid, CYNREID.com. I'm also Cynreid on Instagram. On Facebook, I have a regular personal page, Cynthia Reed, but then I have a business page. I think it's Cynreid also. At one time it was Cynart, CYNART, and I switched it to Cynreid, but I think when it comes up it still has the Cynart on there. But anyway, and then I also have an Etsy shop. I have about 60 watercolors on there for sale. Nice. To find my Etsy shop, it's also Cynreid, and I think you can put in cynreid.etsy.com or etsy.com/shop/Cynreid.
Oh, very good. And, we talked a little bit last night to prepare for this, and then I started following you on Instagram. And now I'm not sure of what I saw, because I was going to say today, I saw a lot of collage on Instagram, but maybe that was paper weaving.
Probably
and I didn't know what I was looking
was.
at. So I'll have to go back on Instagram, look at it on the laptop versus the phone.
You might see some collages.
See if I can see the difference in it.
I have done some collages that are on there.
Very
but
good.
Probably mostly the paper
Very
weaving.
good. Okay. Well, to see Cynthia's art, as well as the art of other talented artists at the Conroe Art League, please visit us at the Best Little Art Gallery in historic downtown Conroe. We're located at 127 Simonton Street, and we're open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 to 4. So join us there to create, appreciate, and learn.